Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So in this video I'd like to go over boons and which ones you should be using, and ultimately are they actually worth it? Should you go and buy those campaign buyouts to make sure you get those boon points early on, or should you just wait and grind them out slowly? Well, let's find out. So initially with boons we have the page here. We have mainly just the campaign boons, and these are the ones I'm going to prioritize on speaking about. Ultimately, you do have guild stronghold boons, and those I definitely recommend picking up, as the amount of item level they give will significantly increase the potential of your character, giving a total up there of 3000 item level, which is quite a decent amount of extra damage. Of course, PvP boons won't matter 1 ounce in any other content than PvP itself. So these campaign boons, now ultimately you can gain a wide variety of benefits from them. Primarily you can obtain up to 5% extra power. However, you will have to input 20 boon points just to obtain it, and you will only get there 0.2% increase per boon point. This is really minimal, but of course it does add up to 5%. On top of that, you can also obtain 1% of each of the other offense stats. So that's your critical strike, your critical severity, your combat advantage, and your accuracy. All of these, again, 5 points will give you a 1% with a 0.2% on each point. So you'd think that this really isn't worth it, and it really isn't until you get to endgame, where you are talking about 1% increases here and there, and you really want to just min-max and get the maximum amount of these percentages as possible to try and get yourself to deal the maximum amount of damage that your character can. So as a DPS, you would try and obtain all of these offensive boons, but ultimately you're only gaining a maximum of 9% to these offense statistics. The other advantage to this is that boons are one of the few sources which actually give that plus percentage, rather than just giving you these statistics, these ratings, because we can only obtain, as you can see by this combat advantage, 50% max from the rating, and then the other contributions you need to obtain to get that a lot higher, and boon points are one of these ways. Now of course it's only 1% on these boon points here, these offense stats, but it is 5% with the power. Now if you want to go defensive, and like if you're running a tank, you then want to get these hit points, and it's similar to power. You can get up to 5%. If you have 500,000 hit points, 5% is another 25,000 hit points. And then again, like offense, you have these 1% to you. All of these defensive stats, your critical avoidance, your defense, your awareness, and your deflect. Now we are missing the 5th defensive stat, which is then over here, which is your deflect severity. The more unique boon points you can obtain, which I really recommend doing so, is Marathon Runner. It'll make your life a whole lot smoother. Stick 5 points into here and you gain 12.5% extra movement speed, which is, you will noticeably feel your character moving faster if you've played the game for any period of time. So I highly recommend picking up these early on. You would have to stick 10 points into tier 1, and then you can jump and stick boons in Marathon Runner. So you would need 15 boon points to fully max this out, and that's something I would prioritize early on if you can. You also have a more unique one here, which is control resistance, and you can gain up to 1% of that. This is something I really wouldn't worry about. Even if you're a tank, it's not much use slotting that in unless you have seriously nothing else to put them in. Control resistance will basically just reduce the time you're controlled for. You're stunned, you're immobilized, knocked, etc. But again, this is only 1%, so that's you'll barely notice it at all. You're generally only controlled for a few seconds maximum. Now then we have these unique boons which give you a benefit to damage and damage resistance against a certain enemy type. Initially we have cultists, then we have our fiends, then we have our dinosaurs, and finally we have our undead. Now undead is one I would pick up, especially if you're in endgame right now, as in the new dungeon, the epic dungeon, the Vault of Stars, a lot of the mobs there are undead, so you would gain this advantage. And unlike the other boon points, these ones actually give a 1% bonus per rank, so you would gain a 5% maximum bonus with these boons, and these are definitely really good, but the problem is they're situational. Most bosses, this won't affect them, and it will then depend on what content you're doing. Like if you're running around in Chult, then of course these one against dinosaurs will help a decent amount, and if you're running in Avernus, this one against fiends will also help, and cultists, if you're running like Tyranny of the Dragons, then you have to beat up those humanoid mobs. Other than that, you can then obtain 15% effectiveness on your healing potions. You will have to spend 15 points in this, and healing potions are normally something you would run in when you're running scaled content and things like that. But in scaled content, your hit points can get so low that these healing potions can heal you up to maximum fairly easily. So here we go, we have on the max rank the potions of radiant healing, and they can heal you up to 220,000 hit points. Now you can multiply this again and increase it with having these boons. You could even use the stronghold boon here with either the group heal if you want to help heal your allies, and also this one here gaining up to 48% more effectiveness on those healing potions. You can make them really good to run around with, and they will give you the benefit of increasing your maximum power here, increasing your maximum hit points here, and then also giving a chance to heal you over time. Now these are all chances, I don't know exactly what percentages they are, but we shall move on. Now finally, when you get to tier 5, this is when boons actually get pretty decent, other than these unique ones here. You can actually gain up to 4% of a certain benefit. Now as a DPS, you can see I'm running with extra forte here and recharge speed. 4% forte on my current character. Each percentage will add to my total power and my combat advantage, which are both offense stats which you want to maximize. So a 4% will give me a 2% more power, and it will give me a 1% more combat advantage. That's just how it works with the division, and then it will give me that other 1% to the deflex severity. So that's a nice boost there. And then of course I'm choosing the recharge speed just to lower those cooldowns on these powers, which is also pretty helpful, but again it's only 4%. Now the other boons here are like 1% incoming healing. You get this to 4%, decent on a tank. You have your stamina regen, again another good one for a tank, and then you have outgoing healing, definitely beneficial for healers, and then you have action point gain. Let's say you want to make sure you can cast those dailies more frequently. And finally you have control bonus, something I wouldn't really worry about either. It will basically increase the duration of your stuns and such. So let's say an enemy has control resistance, this would negate their control resistance by 4% up maximum there if you have 4 points into it. Now of course you'll be capped out with these tiers, right? You'll have to spend 10 points here, 20, 30 and 45 to access the corresponding tiers to actually gain those benefits. Finally we have master boons, and master boons is probably what you've come here to watch, and I'm sorry it's been this long, but I've needed to go over the other ones first. Now which master boon should you be using? There's multiple of different ones that will give you different benefits. Now initially we have here the Deadly Rage. There's a chance when you kill an enemy that you would gain the following benefits. When you have 3 points into it, you will gain 6% combat advantage, power and critical severity. And yes, this does work, and I found the chance upon kill is around 10%. So if we look at my statistics here, you can see I have 77.7% power, I have 74.5% combat advantage, and 73% critical severity. I'll take a quick snapshot of that there. We kill these guys, and we can see it procced. So instead of having my 77 power, I have 83% power. Instead of having a 74% combat advantage, I had 80%, and so on and so forth. But the problem is it's a low chance there at being a 10%. Normally you want the benefit before you went and killed them. Now of course if you do have these statistics capped out, that's not really going to be worth it whatsoever. an extra 6%. If you're capped at 90%, then that's as high as you're going to get. So next up we have a pretty similar boon, which is Death's Bulwark. Whenever you kill something, you have a chance to gain these defensive stats. Up to 6% defense, up to 6% critical avoidance, and 6% of this temporary hit points. For a DPS, you just want to concentrate on dealing damage, so forget this altogether. As a tank, if you're playing offensively with powers which deal a significant amount of damage, you can kill quite a lot within dungeons and such when you're fighting lots of those mobs, and thus this does have a decent chance to proc. But again, it's about 10% on a kill. The problem I have here is it's only going to give you 6% defense, 6% critical avoidance, and 6% temporary hit points. And the drawback is, when you gain those temporary hit points, as soon as you exit combat, they will drop off. Those temporary hit points will go away, and you will gain the defense though for 10 seconds, but the temporary hit points will disappear as soon as you exit that combat. You can see I've gained the temporary hit points there shortly, and I have the defense buffed up here to 44%, rather than when 10 seconds are up, 38%. So I've gained that 6%. So we can see it obviously does work. But again, it's about 10% chance upon killing something. So we move on to the next master boon. We have our Bloodlust. Now, this is the boon that many people have been using. And yes, it's pretty decent. However, upon testing, we went and we kill a dummy and cast our encounter powers, and I found the chance is about 20% on an encounter power cast. Now this is pretty decent, and as its added effect, it will decrease the defense of enemies for 10 seconds up to a maximum of 3% there, and then on rank 2 it will deal an additional hit for 150 magnitude, that's the maximum, and will also give you that 1.5% action point gain. Now I found the action point gain is actually 1.9%, and the reduction to enemies defense doesn't work. If it did work and it could stack up, this would be a nice buff like in Trials, where you have 6 other DPS and you're all trying to deal maximum amount of damage. This would be great. However, it doesn't work whatsoever. It's bugged, I believe, and it doesn't reduce the enemy's defense. Now, along with that, the additional hit for 150 magnitude, it's pretty minimal, but it does add up, and a lot of the time, nearly 50%, it will do no damage. Again, I believe this is also bugged. So you again have the matching feat to that, which is the focused retaliation. Chance on an encounter use to increase your defensive statistics. You will gain 6% control resistance, 6% deflect, and 6% deflect severity. I'll discuss whether Bloodlust is the best for a DPS as we move to the next one, which is Life Lessons. Now, Life Lessons is the master boon, which sounds really good, right? But the drawback is it's on an at-will use when you're below 30% hit points. So you will have to have 70% of your hit points missing, so you'll be nearly dead, and then there's only a chance upon using our at-wills that you will gain the benefits, where you will deal there an additional hit for 150 magnitude. That's pretty much the same as Bloodlust. You can see it's 50 magnitude per rank, and then you will also apply a damage over time effect up to 150 magnitude maximum. Now this will last 10 seconds, and that's divided up over that 10 seconds, so you will deal basically 15 magnitude per second, kind of a dot. And finally, you will also gain hit points. 10% of the damage you deal will also heal you back over time. And this is the damage that you've actually done through Life Lessons, not your damage you do with your powers. So it's kind of misleading in that way. And in that sense, Life Lessons, it's really good on paper when you're actually below 30% hit points all the time. It does a significant amount of damage, especially compared to Bloodlust, and when you have like Duelist Flurry on a rogue, which will deal lots of hits in a short period of time, so it's very easy to get that chance off. But this chance I tested to be about 10% there again. So this, in comparison to Bloodlust, I would recommend running with Bloodlust, because Bloodlust is a lot more reliable. It's only dependent on casting encounter powers, whereas life lessons will depend on whether you're below a certain HP threshold, and then there's still only a 10% chance it will proc, unlike your bloodlust, which is about 20%. I believe it's a little bit under, but it's near enough to that. Now, the matching master boon with that is enhanced application, which is basically like the defensive side. Would you run this on a tank, even in an emergency situation where you're below 30% hit points and you need that heal? Well, the heal on it is pretty abysmal. It will heal you for 1% of your maximum hit points per rank, so that's 3%, so it will initially heal you for 3% of your maximum hit points. It will also be affected by incoming healing, so it's not such a bad thing, but the problem is it's a chance on an at-will use when you're under 30% hit points. When you're under 30% hit points, as a tank, you're really not going to be attacking, you're going to be blocking and doing your best to try and either avoid getting hit or get healed back up as quickly as possible by either getting close proximity to your healer so they notice, or you'll just use a stone of health or a healing potion to heal yourself back up. And thus, this is pretty useless. The heal is 3% of your maximum hit points and then heal you over time for a maximum of 6% of your hit points. So it will heal you over 10 seconds for 6%, and then it will also reduce the damage of your next attack that you receive up to 30%. It sounds really good, but it's just not, because you'll have to get this to proc on an at-will when you're below 30% health, which should either be never, or when it does happen, you're immediately healed back up. Now finally, we have the 2 master boons good for a healer. Now both are really good, and it's basically on a chance when you heal your target for 10% of their health, they will have the applied effects added to them. So this is the initial one, which is Blessed Advantage, so it's like the one that will give you more damage to the target. So this is good for applying on DPS, where you will effectively heal them over time. You will give them a benefit to their power. Most DPS will have their power capped out at 90% because it's fairly easy, especially if you're using food. But the third final benefit is really good. It will give them a 15% bonus. That is really nice for reducing the cooldowns of your encounter powers. Now finally, we have our Blessed Resilience, which is like the defensive one, where you will effectively give them a bonus to their defense. This will definitely help in a trial scenario where you want people to be more tanky. But again, it's not reliable, so you can't mathematically rely on people staying alive with this active on them. It will give them up to 6% defense, will increase their maximum health by up to 6%, that's great, and it will also heal their stamina by 10%. It's really good when healing a tank who's used up their shield. So, in conclusion, which would I use for a DPS? Well, for my master boon, I would use Deadly Rage if you're against lots of mobs and you don't have those specific offense statistics capped out. With the Deadly Rage, you would gain the benefit of, yes, as I mentioned, 6% combat advantage, 6% power, and 6% critical severity. All pretty decent, and it can do pretty well if you're in, let's say, a skirmish where you just have waves and waves upon mobs, and this extra statistics will just give you that extra output in damage. Alternatively, you can use Bloodlust, which is more reliable in terms of going to give you damage, but its damage effectiveness is pretty minimal, but it's going to be better than Deadly Rage when you're against a boss fight and you don't actually kill things. In a boss fight, it's better also for the action point gain, and if it actually ever gets fixed, the reduction to the enemy's defense for that extra party-wide damage buff. Now, as for life lessons, as I've mentioned already, it's just not great because you generally don't want to be below 30% hit points, and again, at only having a chance when you're below 30% hit points to deal this extra damage, it's just not reliable at all. Then, for a tank, I highly recommend just Focused Retaliation. It will give you additional deflect and deflect severity and some control resistance on an encounter use. So it's, again, like Bloodlust, pretty reliable to get procced, as it is, again, about a 20% chance to proc. Then for a healer, you want either Blessed Advantage or Blessed Resilience. Both are pretty decent. You can pick and choose. If you want your party to deal more damage, take Blessed Advantage, and if you want your party to survive a little bit more, take Blessed Resilience. And that's pretty much it. Now, finally, would I go out of my way to get these boons early on? Are they such a big thing? No, they seriously are not. The Master Boon, you can see, like, if you're a DPS and you want to be competitive, Bloodlust will deal less than 1% of your overall damage when in a single target fight. As for the other boons, you just want to progress slowly. These boons are not a must. You can see you will only gain up to 5% extra power and then 1% on your other offense or defense statistics. And that's pretty much it. Of course, these bonuses where you gain up to 5% against these certain enemy types, they are pretty decent, especially when you're running content with a lot of those particular enemies. What I do recommend is as soon as possible get Marathon Runner. It'll make your life a lot more smoother just to increase that movement speed, and you'll noticeably see its effect when running through dungeons and stuff, and you just want to keep up with your party. Overall, I hope this video hasn't been too long, but just recommend don't rush through the boons. They're just not worth it to rush them. If you've got to endgame and you still don't have all your boons, then you might want to consider spending some extra diamonds on some buyouts if you just can't be bothered grinding out a certain campaign. But other than that, just go through them slowly. Every few weeks, and pretty much every week at this stage, we've had a ×2 currency to a particular campaign. So take advantage of this and use it to your benefit to go and grind out these campaigns nice and slowly and get those boon points as you go along. You will also unlock new content, you'll have new things to experience as you farm out these boon points in these certain campaigns. So yeah, just take things slow, especially if it's your first character. If it's your second or third character, you might want to consider spending buyouts or creating those signets, as you can create here, on your main character after grinding out the given currency. So overall, that's been the video. Hopefully this was at least somewhat helpful on what boons to choose for your character and which Master Boon overall to use. So hopefully I presented this well, and if I did, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.